Man, in today's world, we constantly are hearing stories of artists or content creators who seem to have everything: talent, a dedicated fan base, opportunity. Yet despite all of this, something is holding them back from fully embracing all of their potential. That something, more often than not, is the fear of failure. Now, everybody deals with this to a different degree. This isn't an obstacle on the surface, it's a deeply ingrained fear that stems from self-doubt, societal pressures, and the overwhelming weight of expectation. For so many, it's not the fear of failing itself, but the fear of what failure signifies for them, what it means for their identity, their worth, and their place in the world. Now, why do they feel like this? Because they are operating from their ego, not their higher self. The ego is made up of things of this world: status, success, validation, things that are temporary and external. Meanwhile, the higher self isn't attracted to these fleeting concerns and all these worldly possessions. And your higher self knows that failure is an essential part of growth. But we know Hollywood is full of egomaniacs. And what happens when that fear takes control? When, despite their talent and their ambition, it keeps them stuck in a place they should have passed years ago. The fear of failure doesn't just stop them from succeeding, it paralyzes them, keeping them from even trying. The most heartbreaking part is that it most often happens to the people with the most potential, the ones who have the power to create something truly revolutionary, yet they can't bring themselves to risk the fall. You might think this is just another story about artists being crushed by the pressure of fame, similar to the video I made, rappers who aren't built for fame. But listen, y'all, it is much deeper than that. Fame brings its own battles, but what we're talking about today is something far more personal. This is about the internal war that these artists deal with mentally, the moment that they become their own greatest enemy. Fame is external, the noise, the spotlight, the scrutiny, but the fear of failure is internal. Buried in the corners of your mind where the self-doubt lives. It's silent but relentless. It tells you that it's safer to do nothing than risk everything. And that's something, like I said earlier, we all understand. So without further ado, you're watching 10 Toes, and like the title says, let's list some artists who were trapped by the fear of failure. And it's only right to start with the rapper that comes to so many of our heads when discussing this topic. And that is self-sabotage. Someone who at one point in around 2019 or 2020, it felt like a given that he would go on to become a global superstar. He was going viral for Knock Knock when everybody knew that's just the song that blew up, and he's got plenty of bangers in the vault that are 10 times harder than this. So during that time when he was building hype for his new project Pink Hearts, he seemed like the one who was gonna have Yeet's success, not Yeet. But like so many of y'all already know, when he signed to Cactus Jack, things began to slow down. And it's so sad because so many people associate this signing with his downfall. But listen, yo, it wasn't him signing with Travis, it was the timing of him signing. He signed months before the Astroworld incident, in the peak of his hype for Knock Knock, in a time where he needed to capitalize off this. But with people losing their life in this incident, Travis Scott was in hot water. The whole label pushed back, and people were assuming this is why he's holding back, and maybe he even has a Travis Scott feature, that's why he doesn't want to put it out. This wait went from months to a year to 2 years. The buzz has faded, the fans had moved on, and regardless of how strong the project was, because it was a great project, it simply couldn't bring him back to the level of excitement that the fans once had for him. Since this, we have seen something deeper holding Fago back, and no, not the industry, not his management, not Travis Scott. It's nobody but himself and the fear of failure. I made a video featured on Duty's channel a minute ago talking about Fago, and that whole video was about how his manager even admitted Fago isn't dropping music by his own choice. On the surface, this might look like a lack of motivation, but y'all, from a spiritual perspective, it is clear this man is in a battle with his ego. Even in your own life, that fear of failure is rooted in your ego, the part of us that's tied to external validation and afraid of judgment. For someone like Fago, who's had so much hype, the stakes of failure feel higher than ever. What if his music doesn't perform well? What if the fans who once supported him don't come back? These are the type of low vibrational thoughts your ego clings onto and constantly reminds you of, spams you with all day. It's the only thing on your head. That's why if you don't meditate, you can't release that negative energy. But what they do is they sit there and dread on these thoughts all day, creating hesitation and unproductivity, man, and they don't get shit done. It's crazy. The fear literally traps these people. It keeps them stuck in a cycle of what ifs. Too afraid to release, too afraid to create. Man, like I said, the higher self is not concerned with all of these worldly fears. The higher self understands that growth comes from taking risks. Even if those risks don't always work out, that's how you can understand what your next move is. You will never know what your next move is if you're not making no moves. For Fago, the fear of failure has stalled his creativity. It has stalled his career. And until he can separate himself from the voice of the ego, he will remain in the cycle of watching his potential slip away further. And I'm aware a lot of his music is leaking, but yo, do you know how many artists deal with that? You gotta learn how to navigate past that. And I'm not trying to come at Fago, I'm just keeping it real. Truthfully, I feel bad. He has said in an interview he's not always a confident person.
I would be lying if I told you I was always confident. I definitely have moments where I have to find my confidence.
So imagine with this fear of failure, how he feels when news outlets start saying things like this about his career.
Really sad because Fago should be up there with Yeet in today's. I'm done with Fago, bro. I'm done. Even the fans are done, bro. He had so many chances. And with him, he's actually gotten a grace period where he hasn't dropped in a long time, or at least like a full-fledged project. And everybody was expecting him to hit a certain level, but people are still giving it the pass, including myself. But time and time again, he just fucks it up by not actually capitalizing off the hype. So like, it's just not even fun to pay attention to anymore because it's just it's a tragedy, bro. It's a tragedy. We're just witnessing the death of his career.
But this is the reality of being a superstar in today's world of constant media coverage. And honestly, nothing Bob said was wrong because that's how he feels. He was riding for Fago for mad long, so him feeling like this just shows this is how a lot of people feel. And the only way Fago is gonna get out of this hole he's digging himself is action. Now next up is somebody else who I have to mention. You can't mention this topic and not mention Cardi B, an artist who debuted herself in the rap game with one of the biggest hits of all time. If you weren't there in 2017, you really weren't there to experience this song take over the entire world. The song I'm talking about is Bodak Yellow, and it really became a cultural phenomenon, solidifying her place in the music industry. A year later, she released her debut tape, Invasion of Privacy, which was met with massive commercial success. It won her a Grammy over Travis Scott's Astro World. This is Shorty's first album. She came out the gate on this time. Y'all already see where I'm going with this, because guess what? She hasn't dropped an album since. Yes, she has dropped a few singles, I know. But man, we are in an industry where artists are expected to constantly deliver, and her extended absence has definitely raised some suspicion all across the internet.
Cardi B is afraid. And I'm tired of just nobody saying it. Cardi B is scared to come out. It don't take this long to come out. They recently just found every year where she plugged that she was coming, dating back to 2019. It's like 6 different slides in different years of you saying, hey, I have something coming.
This narrative would start spreading so much that even Cardi B herself would speak on if she's afraid to drop. And while she didn't deny it, she would kind of lose track of the question as she kept talking.
Like they be saying like it's like, oh, Cardi's afraid to drop an album, she's afraid to drop music, and it's like, I'm afraid to do everything. Like it's like I'm even afraid to do content, I'm afraid to go on live, I'm afraid to do videos and everything. And it's just like I just keep telling myself like I took a little break because I haven't taken a break on social media in like 7-8 years since I became famous. Like I have never got off social media. I got off social media and like I just like started telling myself like it's like people didn't fall in love with you for like just being a celebrity or anything. They fell in love with you like, and it's like I'm not being myself, and I'm just like tired of holding back. I'm tired of holding back my passion. I'm tired of holding back things in.
Listen, from a spiritual perspective, Cardi's story reflects the paralyzing weight of expectations. Achieving such monumental success early on in your career created a pressure that's nearly impossible to live up to. The ego, which thrives on external validation, begins to fear the possibility of never reaching that same height again. What if she's no longer the culture icon that she is now? When in reality, none of that shit matters at all. And a lot of the times, not doing nothing is the ego's way of protecting itself from a perceived failure. The irony is that this mindset only amplifies the pressure. By waiting for the perfect moment, you convince yourself that the stakes are even higher when you do return. Cardi's path isn't about replicating past success, it's about stepping out of the shadows of that Bodak Yellow without the fear of outcome. But unlike Sofego, I don't see her doing that because at this point she is an industry puppet more than a music artist. What do I mean by that? It's nothing to do with her music right now that is why she's popping. It's who she is and what she casts just by being herself. And I'm not even saying her music's trash, it's just she hasn't dropped an album in so long. We know that's not why she's relevant no more. We know she serves a purpose, her personality, herself, you know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments what y'all think. But going forward, let's list some honorable mentions and also dishonorable mentions. And what's that mean? There's some artists who I feel like you guys are gonna comment and say they fit the characteristics to belong in this video, and I just don't think so. And I gotta see what y'all say. And the first one being Frank Ocean. I don't want to see any Frank Ocean in this convo because his situation is a lot less about the fear of failure and more like the fear of success. He's always been very reclusive. He's never really wanted to be a mainstream star in the first place. But aside from that, his own brother passing, man, a lot of people, this will turn them away from fame. You're going through one of the hardest times of your life and you have a spotlight on you. You got paparazzi on your back when you're trying to just go out real quick. This man is not scared of failure. He's one of the few artists who could drop whenever he wants and will still have the world at a standstill. And second dishonorable mention is Playboy Cardi. Now this is really the one I want y'all to let me know. A year ago I would have said I don't want to see Cardi in the comments because he doesn't need to drop. But at this point, we are pushing 5 years since Whole Lotta Red, y'all. The way I see it, we're at a crossroad. Either Cardi is avoiding the drop because he knows that this flop could really cost him in all of this mystique and hype he's built up, which then, yes, it is the fear of failure, or two, he just doesn't need to drop and he's just riding out this hype because he might even be shook that it's worked this well. Although 5 years, it seems extreme. It seems like there's more going on behind the scenes. What do you think? What is preventing him from not dropping? And you notice how I didn't even say him working on it is an option still, even though he tweeted out I'm trying to perfect it or whatever he did, posted on Instagram. He's lying. I don't buy that for a second, and I'm surprised you Opium fans believe that if you do. Now switching over to honorable mentions, I have to say Autumn, extremely known in the underground, but he hasn't really broken past that ceiling, and it really seems like it comes down to the fact he's just hesitant to take a bigger creative risk. I feel like he's really perfected his little sound that he's got, but for him to truly grow, he has to get outside of that. But he seems to fear the unknown, and that's why I feel like he's trapped by the fear of failure. Very similar to the next honorable mention, which is Scory. Coming up under Polo G, he gave him a solid platform, but after the initial buzz, his momentum just really slowed down. It's like he's unsure whether he can sustain a strong career on his own path, and that hesitation has kept him from fully stepping into his own lane. And the last honorable mention is Joey Badass. Joey Badass exploded onto the scene as a teenager with 1999. As anybody who's a fan of him knows, this is an iconic mixtape. Yet after that, Joey struggled to maintain the same level of critical acclaim and cultural relevance. While he's delivered quality projects since then, including, All American Badass, his sporadic releases and reluctance to consistently stay in the spotlight, it hints at someone who might feel burdened by the legacy of their early success. But once again, y'all let me know what you think, and if there's any honorable mentions you feel I missed. But let's get right on to this final example. And the final example of an artist who was trapped by the fear of failure is Bryson Tiller. Bryson Tiller's rise to fame with Trap Soul in 2015 was nothing short of meteoric. Songs like Don't and Exchange didn't just resonate, they became anthems. His debut album was so impactful that it solidified him as one of the defining voices of his era. But as quickly as Bryson rose, his career began to stall. When he followed up his iconic album with True to Self in 2017, the reception wasn't what he had hoped for. Critics labeled it rushed, fans felt underwhelmed, and Bryson himself admitted to being disappointed in the project. He feels like he let his fans down. This marked a turning point as he stepped back from the spotlight, visibly, and this was weighed down by self-doubt and perfectionism. From a spiritual lens, Bryson's journey reveals the grip the ego can have on an artist. The ego ties self-worth to success, and when the True to Self tape didn't live up to the high bar set by Trap Soul, it became a wound. Instead of taking creative risks, Bryson retreated, spending years in a creative limbo. His 2020 album Anniversary did kind of get him back in that spotlight, but man, this is after he took a long ass break. And even then, it did feel like he was playing it safe, clinging to that sound that initially put him on. What's heartbreaking is that Bryson has been open about the struggles of depression and anxiety, even admitting that he battled perfectionism throughout his whole career. Perfectionism is driven by the fear of failure. Of course, it's not a bad thing to want to make things perfect, but just like everything, it gets to a point. Instead of creating for the sake of art, he's creating to avoid the disappointment of others, which is not what you want to be doing. The higher self knows that true growth comes from failure, from stepping into the unknown and trusting the process. For Bryson, the key to breaking free is letting go of the need to replicate Trap Soul's magic and really embrace his evolution as an artist.
You put out an album like Trap Soul, and like people just want another one of those.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Right? And because that happened with Nas. I mean, like if you look back to Nas's second album, it was written, it's a fucking perfect project in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But when it first came out, people were like, yo, this ain't Illmatic. What the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? Do you feel like, is that a gift, the gift and the curse part of having a project like Trap Soul? And especially it's your first project.
Right. Yeah, which made it even more.
Right.
Yeah, crazy. The way I see it now is I'm just like, man, it's there for you to listen to.
Yeah, you can go back and listen to it if you want.
In conclusion, the fear of failure isn't just an obstacle, it's a prison. It traps artists in cycles of hesitation, forcing them to second guess their every move and robbing them of the freedom to create authentically. For Sofago, it's the fear of living up to the hype. For Cardi B, it's the weight of a once-in-a-lifetime debut. For Bryson, it's the perfectionism that stems from trying to avoid the sting of disappointment. These stories aren't just about the music, they are about the human experience. The ego craves validation, but the higher self understands that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of it. And why do I keep mentioning the damn ego and higher self? Because y'all, at the core of it all, who are you really? Beyond the external ideologies you tie yourself to, beyond the expectations, the fear, the need for validation, the worldly concepts, strip all that away and what's left? Just you in the present moment, ready to attract what it is your soul truly desires. Now that's gonna wrap it up. I appreciate y'all for making it this far. I hope y'all took something away from this and I hope y'all enjoyed. Comment if I missed anybody. Comment any dishonorable mentions y'all think. Just comment what y'all think, man. Of course, I got a second channel, Strictly Spirituality, and everybody who's been hitting me up and they say they prefer that channel, man, they love when I just talk deep on here. Man, I really do appreciate y'all so much, man. And y'all who talk to me on Discord, y'all know, man, I work in real life, so the main channel is really my priority. As soon as I can get to that channel and just spam y'all out with content, man, I will do it, and I promise I will do it. I got Instagram, Discord, reach out, say what's good. It's been your boy 10 Toes. And yeah, man, y'all be cool, y'all be smooth. Most importantly, be patient. I'm gonna catch y'all, boys.